Welcome to Think Like a Business number 5, our final night, at least in this series. I'll be doing some monthly ones with our Business Era table group. But this is off of my book, Think Like a Business Era, Christian's Guide to Building and Starting a Legacy Business. And step by step, it's got a bunch of great worksheets and stuff to do in there to read it, watch the videos to companion with it. As this is kind of a great way to kind of end it, as we're summing some stuff up, but really giving you some key details that we need to, in a sense, frosting the cake. Tonight we'll be frosting the cake, talking about the importance of learning to shoot a BB in your business, operate a business with some integrity, and to build your business on the rock. Make sure that we're building a Christian business. I'm not ashamed of God. I want God to be working in my business, and ultimately I want to be a bright light in the world that I am. And the world has no problem flaunting their values in their business. We have to make sure that we also want to make sure that our business shows godly values in every way. That when they look at our business, they see something different. And I believe in this difference in our life and the way that we operate, God is able to supernaturally get in there and build our business His way. So sit back, relax, grow with us, change with us, renew with us, and I know God's going to richly bless you. Well, it's our fifth and our final night. I'm very excited about tonight. Be thinking about questions. I want to get questions at the end. I was thinking about that on the way over. I don't think there's any dumb questions. What sometimes the enemy will get us to do is not ask a question, because it's the one thing that's holding us back maybe from doing something and making a good decision. And I can guarantee you, more than likely, there's 100 people either watching or here, all put together, who have a similar question that they would like to ask. And so if you think of one, write it down, jot it down at the end. If we got some, we'll do them. If not, we'll cut her out a little bit early. I'll be starting, so this class is ending, but I'm going to be starting a round table. And it'll be a monthly meeting that we'll do. I want to make it real small, real intimate. And I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. Part of me thinks I'd like to have the round table put together a business, and kind of navigate a whole business together. But it might just be something that I teach. I'll definitely teach at it once a month, and but it'll be probably more like a 20-minute teaching, and then a lot of sharing and those things. And so if you're interested in the round table at all, we need that information afterwards. So Betsy will be out there in the foyer, and we just need your name, and then we'll let you know kind of what night. I'm pretty sure it'll be Tuesday nights again, and we'll just do like I don't know. I really want to. I'd like to take a small group of people and grow together. That's kind of what I'd like to do. Once a month, we just kind of grow together in this business world. All right. Well, tonight we're finishing it up. We're finalizing some stuff, and the first part of tonight is called "Hurry and Slow Down." Hurry and slow down. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how important your time is, to maximize your time. And I'm hoping you're all begin to apply that. There's the reason why I can function at such a high level, doing so many things, is because I have learned to master my time. Your time will master you, or you will master your time. Your time will produce for you, or you'll be working for your time. It's one way or the other. And so it's really important that it's on the forefront. You wake up every morning mindful of your time. You go throughout the day. I live my life looking at things and seeing if somehow, if it's not producing or some way that I can maximize it, I can do it faster, I can eliminate things that are not producing in my life. But today we talk about hurry and slow down. One of the big mistakes that happen within businesses that I've seen over the years is that we expand too fast. There's a pace, there's a season for everything in life. And we have to make sure and I've seen it both ways. I've seen businesses not expand. I know a number of people who have been doing business for 10, 15, 20 years, and they're still the only person doing it. And they're working 50, 60, 70 hours. And once again, they didn't really create a business. I said that in the beginning. They created a job. That's all you did. You just made a job. And oftentimes what happens is you're your worst boss, and so you're working yourself harder than had you had a job. And so we have to know that there's a balance in expanding too fast and, of course, growing too slow. But the big thing that I do see is money begins to come in, and right away people begin to think things that don't need to expand. Because remember, in the early days of your business, and maybe you've had a business for a while, but now it's just going to start be taking off as you use these principles, is that right away we begin to want to spend that money on different things that it might not be the season to do so, right? And so learning to use common sense to really take a hard look at things. Don't jump into stuff too fast. And I'll talk a little bit later about one of my favorite phrases, and I mentioned a couple weeks ago, throwing a BB at something rather than a cannonball. In other words, if you had one cannonball to shoot here on your pirate ship, right, it makes more sense to shoot 10, 20, 30 BBs at something to see and make sure that your aim is right, and then load up the cannonball and shoot the cannonball. And so being able, in some ways, to looking at ways that you can shoot a BB at something and see, okay, yeah, maybe we'll try this on a smaller scale and see that it works. And so we kind of want to talk about a little bit about tonight about hiring, about expanding, about making sure that we expand at the proper rate, growth rate, and then also being able to steer our ship fast. Because I want to be able to make sure that I always set myself up that if I step out too far, that I have the ability to turn my ship around because there's something in the way. There's an obstacle, something that I didn't see, something I didn't notice. And this is something that, even in the midst of the chapter with all of my failures, most of the time, I've been pretty good about some of these things. And it's a good to do that. So my toy company, one of the things I was going to talk about, one of the things that we did with my toy company. So toy company is doing great, right? And we're in the first, I think it was in the first 4 months, like we're just selling toys all over the United States. And so the idea comes to do a kiosk, right? And we're working out of my garage, which I believe in that. I love staying in the garage, keeping my overhead down. But a kiosk, like if these things are selling, what if I went to Arizona Mills Mall? And one of the things that you have to be careful of is the salespeople. Realize, and I'm nothing against salespeople, but remember, their job is to sell. And there are, and this probably never happened to you, but some salespeople exaggerate a little bit. I don't know if you guys ever had that. Just a teeny, just a little bit of exaggeration. So, when you meet with a salesperson to do a kiosk in the mall, they're going to sell you, oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing. You know how much business, how many people are going to come buy your thing? 100,000 people. Like, it's just, the numbers are astronomical of what they're promising, what you're going to be able to do, what's going to be able to happen. But bottom line, still, I have a mathematical mind, so I put math on this. So they want me to do a year lease, but I want to make sure that I then thank the Lord. I was like, well, why do a year? I'd rather just do, can I go month to month? That's going to be more expensive. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to be stuck in a lease. So at least I made that choice right. I said, I'll do month to month. And it sounded great. It sounded amazing, right? And I did the math. I wrote down the math here today, and this is ballpark numbers. I remember it was about $1,500 a month for the kiosk. So that's kind of cool. And in that number, I was like, all right, in order to do that, we really have to sell, maybe 12, 15 toys a day to be able to break even on that. So I'm like, that's good. And then, right, so I'm like, that's not hard to do. We should be able to sell 12, 15 toys a day. Should be no problem whatsoever. So let's do it. Let's run with it. But then I didn't think through, well, we got to set up the kiosk. So to do that, we got to get cash registers. We got to have all the little displays. We got to buy all the signage and everything. So it was like $1,000, which I was like, well, I should have thought that was on me. Didn't think that through, so $1,000 goes to do that. And then for some reason, in my mind, the kiosk ran on its own, right? That may sound dumb. Like I'm once again, I'm a pretty dang smart guy, but I do make. And then we get into it. And I'm like, wait a second, we got to have somebody man this thing. So we got to have a worker, which is a pain in the booty too. So now I have to find, and I never thought through, like, even then I was like, all right, we'll have somebody down there for 8 hours. But I forgot that Arizona Mills Mall is like open. I forgot it's like 10 to 10. Like some days it's like 12 hours. So you got to have 2 different employees for the most part working this 7 days a week, which it runs up. It's a little over $1,000 a week. So now. Okay, so now we got to sell about 30, 40 toys a day, right? And then you don't take into account that there's theft, and then people that you hire, you're new, and your employees are going to steal, right? And you're going to be short, $1,000 at the end. And so when it's all said and done, and we did our first month there, we're about 3 weeks in, and I'm like calculating based on what we're selling. We lost about $1,500 that first month. And I realized this. I understand that you have to be in a place for 3 to 6 months, but I didn't even see in 3 to 6 months it really benefiting, being able to grow. And so the good thing that I did is I went month to month. It was more expensive by, I think, $500 a month, but it didn't cost me 15, 16, 17 grand over the year. I was able to cancel the lease and get out of it. And that, I think that's important to be able to, I learned from that one because I did a kiosk again with the knife company, and I made a lot better decision. I knew all the pitfalls, and this is really what business is. Business is learning from your mistakes and hopefully making better decisions in that. And I did the same thing for the knife company, but come to find out, the knife company still didn't really, we profited a little bit, but it was not worth the hassle. And that'll happen sometimes. That's what's nice about doing something small, because the same thing with the knife company. When we put our knives in Arizona Mills Mall, they wanted to give me, and this time it had gone up to $2,500. I think it was $2,500 or something, but they were going to give me the kiosk for $1,500, $1,000 break if I signed a year lease. But I still didn't feel good about it, even though, we're going to sell a gajillion knives. And it's, sometimes, here's the thing that you have to realize. Sometimes your greatest ideas, when it gets really working, aren't that good ideas. You ever had that? Like, it's a great idea. You're so excited about it, and you look back and you're like, no, it wasn't that good idea. I thought it was great. I'm glad I didn't put a whole lot of money in it. And so really the same thing happened at Arizona Mills Mall. We didn't lose money. I think we made like $1,000 or $800 in the first month, but it was a tremendous amount of hassle between all of the employees and getting all the knives there and all the frustrations and everything that was going on. And so in the same way, made good decision, and I shot a BB at both of those. And so shoot a BB at it. You have to realize a couple of the big things as your business grows, if you decide that you want to get an office or different things, being smart and intelligent about that. My sister-in-law, she's got a cool little company. She's been growing for about 3 years now. And you can find these little offices, place where they give you a receptionist, they give you a little office, and it looks kind of pro, and it's a very reasonable fee. It's like $400, $500. I don't know. It's very inexpensive of what you're able to get and look like a bigger business for a little amount, rather than going out and getting a place for $2,000, $3,000, whatever, and then having to pay a receptionist and having to pay, cleaning and doing all of those processes. And so looking around and taking time, of course, prayer, but really looking at some of those things when you're expanding. But I'm a believer in staying in the garage. My wife is not a believer. I believe in staying in the garage as long as you can stay in the garage. But there came a point in the knife company where the stepping out into a retail space for, I think our spot that we have now, it's up to $2,500. Which is from the day one we were making money in that retail spot. I needed a place to build anyway. My wife, for the love of all good and holy, wanted everything. She's been praying for me to get out of the garage forever. So it worked out incredibly for the spot that we were able to get. But it is a hassle. We looked and looked and looked, and there is a story in there. It's not in the book and I'm going to add a little nugget. Here's a nugget for you. God's biggest miracles always in my life have been in a time of giving. And I'll talk about that a little bit at the end, I believe. But in my times of when I'm doing something annoying, but it's giving to somebody else, is when God gives me the biggest miracles. We were looking for months for a place. They're taking us to all the little back shops and everything else. And I tried to get a lease on one, and it fell through because God loves me so much. And then it was a day that we were having a VBS down here at the church. And my wife's like, hey, you should take pizzas down to all the workers. I'm like, well, that's dumb. Why am I making it? Why? Really? I have to take I'm the pizza delivery boy today, right? That's what I get to do. But I'm like, all right. But a smile on my face, I do everything, good attitude. And I went down to Little Caesars, and I got all the pizzas, tons of pizzas, paid for the pizzas out of my own money, of course. And right there was a for lease sign on a spot right there. And I'm like, and I thought to myself, that's primo. That's right on the street. I mean, that'd be kind of crazy, because we were looking just for a warehouse just to build out of. And so I grabbed the number. I called it on the way back to the church. And the guy's like, well, I'll just put it up right now. I'm like, all right. And I asked how much is it going to be. So I thought he's going to say $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month. He goes, it's going to be $2,100. I said, done. Write me a contract. I'm gonna get that one. I want that today. And it's crazy, as a kind of a bonus thing, looking for opportunities to be able to give, to sow into people's life. I think that God shines the brightest when we are stepping outside of ourselves and doing something. All right, so shooting a BB, getting a lease. A lot of times they want to get you on that 36 months, 5 years lease. I'm a believer in if you can get that thing for 12 months, which we were able to do for the knives, and then after the first year, we were fine going to 3 years because we know that it was a good decision. Money goes back into your business, and that's why I say to take it slow in the beginning. Making sure that you are funneling people taking money out and then spending money. That's money that you can't use to grow. And so it's important in the early stages, and maybe even you've been around a while and you're like, okay, we need to take some time and put some money back in because I got to put money into the business to make it grow. Then you get to the place, 3 years, 4 years, like we did with Ravencrest, where I begin to take money out, but I still always, as I said last time, the business always gets a cut. And so the way that I work out our numbers, there's 2 of us in the business, and so we go thirds. The business gets a third, I get a third, and the partner gets a third. And so 1/3 of our profits is always being cycling back in so that we're always in an avenue of growing, because you don't ever want to get to a place where your business stops growing. Right? Anything that's not growing is stagnating. Anything that's not growing seems to be decaying and going backwards. And so we always want to make sure that our business is in a constant state of growth and that you have a vision. I talked about that on Sunday, that you're thinking big. This is what I want. I want to have big, reasonable goals. I want every year to be a more profitable year than it was before. And this is the way that it has been for the knife company every single year. Now, we didn't take in more money, but it doesn't, I know, and it's funny, I used to watch The Prophet. I don't know if you guys ever watched The Prophet. He'd come in, he went to this meat factory, and the factory, I think, was doing $10 million a year, but it was spending $9,990,000, right? So it doesn't matter how much money you take in if you're spending just as much. And so we have become more profitable, meaning I put more money into my pocket every single year since the inception. And so this is what you want to make sure. Dreaming big, seeing growth, talking growth, doing everything that you can to grow your business. And that's why you don't want to be in this thing for 4 years and still have no employees. You want to make sure that you are working towards a goal at 3 years, 2 years maybe, being able to hire some people to be able to grow your business. Because there does come a point when you cannot grow any further, when only one person can do so much. This is all I can do. And so now if I add somebody into the business, I can make sure that the business can grow. All right, so before you do a storefront, do a kiosk, do a food truck, any of those things, making sure that you've done the math, you do something where you start a BB at it, and then you see how it grows. Hiring. When does hiring make sense? I think that every business is going to be a little bit different, and you have to be able to look at it. My toy company and my knife company, both right out of the way, we were able to add some people on, one person on for sales in the toy company. Then we went to 2 salespeople. And same thing for the knife company. We had to have salespeople. I wasn't willing to go fly out and do those things. So we created some good systems. And then very quickly I needed a builder to do that because it was making money. And I guess you're right. We could have kept some more money, but it felt like the right move, and I think that it was the right move for the business. Now, I didn't hire 10 employees by any means, but I hired a part-time person in the beginning for 20 hours, and then we bumped them up to 32 hours, and then we bumped them up to 40 hours. And so we were growing with the business nice and easy. And so when you find yourself, especially if you find yourself that I can't do anymore, that's when you want to start thinking employees. You want to start thinking, okay, I've reached my limit, and yeah, if I can pay somebody $600 a week, and I'm making $1,000 a week right now, and now I'm only making $400 a week, but then it allows you to take your time and maybe expand that business, that in 3 months, you're now making $2,000 a month. And then you expand again, and now you're making, or $2,000 a week, and then you expand your business again, and you expand your business. And so it's taking steps and making sure that you're always mindful weekly. I do every week. I look at, I love Excel. So I have my little spreadsheet, and it tells me, based on the income, how many employees I should be able to have. And being able to make sure that I navigate that. Because one of the biggest things that happens to a company that begins to hire employees is they lose the perspective of money going out the door. And they were profitable, but what we do oftentimes is we throw money at problems. Because here's the thing you have to realize about your staff, and this is a staff question as you grow. Your staff is always going to want to hire more people because in their mind they believe it's less work, right? So if you have more people, it's going to be less work on me. And what I have found is with the knife company, it's so funny. I think last year, maybe a year and a half ago, we had 2 more employees than we do currently right now, right? And they were getting done less work than the 2 less now today are getting done. Because people will fill their day. You know, if I can build a knife, right, kind of slow and kind of watch a little show and hang out and do stuff, and I got to get this many done in a day, I'll get that many done a day. But if I have to put a little pep in my step and I got a whole lot that I got to get done and work hard to be able to done, I'll get more knives done in a day. Now, definitely don't want to overload them, but in the same sense that every dollar that I spend is a dollar that's out of my profitability. And so I'm always keeping my mind on the numbers. I don't want to overwork my employees, and usually I can tell when I'm overworked, which is very simple to me, got overtime, because I have a principle in my company, and here's the thing, you have to set up standards for your people, otherwise their standards aren't the same standards as yours. So here's my standards for the knife company. We get an order in, those orders are built, fulfilled, and shipped within 24 hours. If it's a custom knife that we have to paint, I give you 3 days. That's the standard. If a return comes in, you got 24 hours to fix it and to get it back out. No one goes home if that's not done, unless you text and call me and say, hey, you know, something crazy happened, then we can do that. But that's my standard, right? And I check on that standard, because what happens is if I miss a few weeks of checking, I'm like, hey, and I come over, I'm like, hey, how long has this order been out? This is supposed to be out. Oh, yeah, we didn't get to a couple of those. Okay, once again, guys, gather up. What do? Every order goes out. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, don't forget. Every order goes out in 24 hours, right? And if you can't do it, nobody goes home unless you call me. And then I can see that as if we get some overtime and it's consistent for a few weeks, it's not because of a sale, then we can look and talk about, can we be more efficient, or I can add employees. And so that's very important that we're keeping a good eye on employees, making sure that we're not wasting money. All right, so you'll get to this point, and I'm saying this, if you don't have a business, you're going to start a business, this is future. But why not have future information? I believe this: hire slow, fire fast, right, and pay great. Hire slow, pay great, and fire fast. These are the principles that I've learned, especially, and business is different than church. So it's hard to, great. I've been hiring people at the church for 25 years. That's different. When people work for the church, most of the time they're passionate, they're excited. It's more of a family, right? And if you have to let somebody go at the church, it hurts, right? It hurts families and people and their church. And so we really don't fire at the church. We don't. I don't want to. Let's work it out. But in my knife company, stop it, right? You're saying, like, we can do those things. But, right, laugh at that, right? Sorry, I got to let you go. I never like to, I have a pastor's heart, and this will come out a little bit when I'm talking about firing. And so my partner has to remind me, because I'm the guy that just goes, come on, they'll be fine, right? And this is why I said fire fast, because my biggest mistake is keeping people on in 2 of the areas that I'll talk about tonight that are business killers. They're staff killers. And so I want to make sure that you have that information. But I do say hire slow. And it doesn't mean take months, but it does mean that don't just fill the position. Make sure that the person is perfect for the position. Don't just fill position. That's what I did early on. You get 3 interviews, and they got a heartbeat, and you're like, all right, good, you're in. Get on in there, build a knife. And that's not good. And what I've learned, and you can write these questions down, this is some of the things that I learned in an interview. Obviously, we know interview, make sure that they look the part. And I say look the part because not everybody comes in with a suit and a tie. My customer service guy would not be customer service in 95% of the companies in America, right? He's a big old Harley Davidson guy, burly, right? And I love him. I love him to death. He came in and I went, boom, you're my phone. I fell in love with him, right? He's just an older guy. He gets it. He's kind, but he's made for a knife company, right? He wouldn't work in cosmetics. Can I say that? Right? He's not going to be right? He's not going to work in a lot of stores answering the phone, but he's perfect, and he didn't show up in a suit and tie. He didn't need to. He came in a nice T-shirt. He looked good for his part, and he did great in the interview. And I've learned over the years the importance of the interview. The interview is so important that I can get some. You can't get all, because obviously they're trying to bring in their best. A lot of people. It's so funny. I interview so many people for the knife company in the last 5 years. You still get funny ones. I think we got one guy. He came in. He looked like he rolled out of bed, right? And talking about his last job, he's like, yeah, I'm supposed to be there right now. He's like, but if I get this job, I guess I'll go there today. I'm like, everything about his interview was horrible, right? It was just unbelievable, right? And so, but I have learned, one, how do they look, right? Do they care? Of course. Did they show up on time for the interview? Was it important to them? And beyond that, I just have a couple questions that I like to ask. How you doing? Is a great question. Because I like to surround myself with positive people. I like people who have a positive attitude, even in the midst, because in the job, you're going to have times where the day just didn't go your way. And you're still going to have a positive attitude with the customers. And so what's their disposition? Are they positive? Are they kind of a happy, you may not like, but I need to, and I've hired so many people that didn't have this, and it just makes a mess. Nothing's worse than hiring somebody and have to let them go. You know how you solve that? Is don't hire somebody you have to let go. This is what I've learned, right? Just hire good people, and the better people that you hire, the less likely you have to let. I was going to say I had to let, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. I had to let one guy go in the last 3 years. And that doesn't count temporary, because our Christmas people, I tell you, you're temporary just for the holidays, so that doesn't count them. They know they're holiday people. But I think I've only had to let one person go in the last 3 years. What I've learned, because before that it was a whole lot of crazy. And so making sure that who I hire is somebody that I'm not going to have to let go. And so I ask them, how you doing? I want to see how's life going? How's your attitude with that? And I love, this is where I get the most information. Because most of the time they have a job. And I like that. I don't like people that are like, I've had a job in 8 months. And I'm like, what have you been doing? And so that's not the guy usually the girl that I'm looking for. And so how's your job? And that tells me a tremendous amount about a person. Because if they come in and they're complaining, about their boss and about this and that, and the job doesn't treat me or anything else, well, right off the bat, I already know that you're the complaining type. Because every job, if you allow it, is not a great job. It starts out great, but if you don't manage your attitude and you don't manage what's going on the inside of you, you'll hate your boss, you'll hate the company, you'll hate everybody. And I don't want to hire somebody I have to fire. And so I just want to hear their heart about what's going on. And sometimes they say, some things are going on. He's like, but it's fine. I push forward, and I'm doing my best, and I do good, and it's fine, right? And I like to hear a positive spin even when things aren't going. Because if they are leaving their job, it's usually not their favorite. So I want to make sure that somehow I'm not hiring somebody who's going to have another interview in 6 months with somebody else saying how bad it is to work for Ravencrest Tactical. I want people that have a good attitude. Talk good, lift up, build up people. The most important aspects are those aspects for me that I've found over the years. And so making sure that they, I catch a lot of people on this one. Okay, so you have a job. When can you start? And I'll have people go, well, I can start this week. And I'll go, don't you have to give your job a 2-week notice? And they're like, oh, they'll be fine. And I go, okay, well, at least for me, you lack what I would say character. I really do. I think that at least offer it. I like the people that go, let me see what I can do. I'm going to talk to my job. Sometimes if you give it he said, I'll give them 2 weeks. This is what I think a couple of years ago, one of my great employees now said, I'll offer them 2 weeks, but sometimes they say, hey, you're fine, leave in a week. And so I love that. I love somebody with character, because if you're not going to give that job 2 weeks, you're not going to give me 2 weeks. And I'm already seeing, because character is something that you live by. It's not something that you pick and choose like a buffet, which things you do. And the more character somebody has that's working for me, the more likely that we're going to have success and have employees that last for a long time. And so we hire slow. I mean, I really take my time. And there's weeks, because I'll interview on Wednesday, and there's been times where we'd go through a whole interview. I'll have 10 people in the office, and none of them really made it. But I would rather wait another week to hire somebody than hire somebody, let them go in a month, and then have to redo the process again and all that we lost. Because every time you hire somebody, let them go, there's a considerable amount of training loss, financial loss that you go through. And so making sure that we're being intelligent with that, with our hiring. All right, so hire slow, and then I'm going to go right into pay great. This is a big one. Oh my gosh. For first four years of the business, we hired people at minimum wage. And for the love of all the good and holy, I couldn't tell you how many. I was trying to do a number. Couldn't even tell you how many people we've been through. The people lasted a month, 2 months, quit, left. I had a whole crew walk out. The whole crew just walked out, because my partner said that he wanted, and we're paying you, not to redo the labels on something. Which wasn't asking for overtime. Do it tomorrow. We won't ship them out today. Just redo the labels. We didn't like the way the labels were. And they're like, no, we're not redoing those. I'm like, well, that doesn't even make sense. Why would you? What do you mean you're not going to do it? I don't understand that. Like, I thought I was the boss, and maybe things have changed. Maybe I'm wrong. But this is the way I'd like to do it. I'm not asking you to work more hours. I'm just saying to do this. And so 3 of our employees I think it was 3, maybe 4, just walked. They were done. They just all walked out, and it was just a big old mess. People quitting and firing, stealing, and everything. Like, it was just a mess. And I had the idea 3 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago, somewhere around there. I'm like, what if we stop paying minimum wage? I'm just saying. And what if we just added $3 an hour on top of whatever minimum wage is? That's our ground. And we could even go $1 or $2 above that if we get some people that are amazing. And the different level of people that applied for the job is astronomical. Unbelievable. Just 3, and you're like, it's $3 an hour, it's $120 a week. It's not the end of the world. I spend $120 a week on just rehiring and refiring and redo. I was spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars just on training and everything else, and have to go through the process again and the hassle, and then have to put out the ad on monster.com, whatever we use. My partner sets all that up. Whatever we use, and spending the money on that, oh my gosh. And so $120 a week, and I've had people, there's not a single employee that I have right now that have not been for me longer than we did. We got a new guy that does my social media. He's been with us for 6 months. The other guy had been with us for 2 years. He's just got a much better job. It's just, it was crazy. Because he did such a great job with us, people find out. And I don't mind that. I never mind when people take a step up. Does that make sense? That's a God thing. I love when people get blessed. So it doesn't bother me. God replaced with a guy that I think is at least as good, maybe even better with him. So he's been with us 6 months. The other ones have been 2 years, 3. Oh, no, my Harley Davidson guy's been with us. It'll be a year here coming up, probably in a month or 2. But we have a longevity. We went from people lasting 1 month, 3 months. I think 1 year we went through like 18 employees to people getting vacation time. I'm like, why do we even have vacation policies? Nobody makes it that long. Right? Because remember, we're blessed to be a blessing. And so I give more, and I get more. And then we're also generous, raises. I mean, we got guys making a lot more than minimum wage now because of what they've been. And because they're loyal, they work hard, and they'd be very difficult to replace. And I don't want to be a company where the owners, are just squeezing every drop out of people. I want to make sure that people are blessed in the job. Now, I'm not paying them $250,000 a year, but I am paying them based on industry standards. I don't believe that they could go to another knife company and make what they make and have the atmosphere and have all the benefits that we do. And so I believe I've learned that over the years. It sounds great when you're first hiring, go minimum wage. But now I am a believer of at least $3 and over of minimum wage, being generous. Fire fast. What do I mean with that? Fire fast. There are a couple things. I'm a very grace person. I believe in having a good attitude. I believe that my job as an owner is to overlook. People have bad days. People do, right? And I want to always look at employees as how are they characterized by, right? Characterized means that you can have a bad day. That's not going to get me to fire you. But if you are characterized as a bad attitude day after day after day, then I'm going to have to make a decision. I don't want to do that. And so bad attitude to me, I have learned over the years in Ravencrest Tactical that a bad attitude kills all the attitudes around it. I mean, we've all heard this. A bad apple spoils everything. And it's crazy how contagious one bad attitude is. We had an employee, and we just worked, right, 6 months, 7 months with this guy over and over and over again, horrible attitude. And then people are quitting all around and everything, and everybody's upset, and the atmosphere is always negative. You come in and everything, right? And I'm Grace. I would sit down and say, hey, come on, you got to get a good attitude. It worked for, 3-4 days, and the next week's the same thing. And so we've kind of become committed that if you're working with a bad attitude, I have to remove you fast. Just like cancer. Cancer spreads. I have to chemo that thing. And so you have to make sure that you get rid of bad attitudes very quickly. The second thing, of course, is theft. Theft. Now, I'm a big grace guy, so this has been my weakness. We catch somebody stealing, and I'm like, oh, they said they're sorry. We're fine. It'll be good. It's good. Right? And then they steal, and I had one manager. Oh my gosh, he was manager, but he was also go out in sales. And so he would take the card, and then I'm looking at the charges. I'm like, well, that's not how much the hotel is. So I call the hotel, and he's ordering prime rib into his room all weekend, and beers and booze. He knocks up $600 in charges on the room. He's like, oh, sorry, oh yeah. Then I find out he's been doing that for the last 3 months, and I'm like, hey, don't do that anymore because I'm Grace, right? I'm like, all right. And then they just find another way to steal, another way. And by all said and done, with this guy alone, we believe he stole a little over $10,000 over, right? I could have saved $9,400 if I lived by this principle. If you steal from me once and I catch you, it's not the first time you stole. Does that make sense? There's a very good... I like it, and we're not on Sunday, so I'm gonna say this. I love Ozark, so I'm gonna say, "Oh Lord, Pastor, I do. I love Ozark. It's a great show. For me, it's a little aggressive. It might be aggressive for you. Don't watch it. I don't care. But for me, I like it." And in the first couple episodes, the drug dealer caught a guy stealing, right? And he tells this cool story about his dad had a little grocery store, and there's a woman that worked with the family for 15 years, and he caught her one day stealing $15 or something out of the register, and he fired her. And he asked his dad, he goes, well, why? It's the first time. He goes, no, it's not the first time she stole. It was the first time she was caught. She's probably been stealing a long time. And this is the thing, people that steal, first time. Right, gone. It's so funny as I say this, and the last person that I had to let go this year, this is kind of the story, is we caught him stealing, right? But he turned himself in, right? And so Pastor Scott goes, he turned himself in. He's got to give him grace. He's going to be fine. It's all good. So we all good, right? And then, right? And so then, boom, and then it got crazy, and so then we had to fire him, right? 2 months later. And I'm like, we should just let him go back then. But then I asked my employees, and I'm like, it came out that the reason he turned himself in is because the employees had caught him and said, if you don't turn yourself in, we're going to turn you in. And I'm like, well, why didn't you guys tell me that? He's like, why didn't you ask? I'm like, I don't know. Didn't think I had to ask. And so we remind ourselves again. And so if you're in business with a pastor, I am big on grace. But those are the two things that I've learned that I can't be grace for those. Those are the things that will do too much damage to the company. But I say characterized with because I have just an incredible employee that over the Christmas holiday, he was sending me grumpy texts. Like, he was grumpy. And Ravencrest Tactical Holiday, and we try to warn them, like, get ready. Winter is coming. Like, it's going to get crazy. Like the amount of orders that we do from Black Friday until the first of the year is just crazy. We double the staff. We're just going. And so he'd been going 70 hours a week, which is right. And he's just going and going. And then we had COVID hit, and so like half the staff was out also. So he was amazing. He was doing it, but he was grumpy. And I like his texts, but it's all right because I understand why he's coming. So I come into the shop, and he had a customer, and I would have been less offended if he'd have slapped the customer in front of me. He was doing the worst customer service I've ever seen in my entire life, right? It was just like, it was total fireable. It was unbelievable. And I just walked over, and he didn't want to talk to me. I said, come, Scotty wants to talk to you. Just come on, and then I had another guy come over, and I took him to the office. I said, okay, let's calm down. So we just talked. He was so angry. He was very mad. And I said, let's do this. He's been working. I said, I get it. I want you to go home. I'm going to pay you for the day. I'm going to pay you even though you go home, and I'm going to pay you for tomorrow you're going to go home. That's what I'm going to do. And I want you to just sleep and rest for the next day and a half. Well, all the orders. I said, we'll work out the orders. It's fine. People can wait another day and a half to get the orders out. I just want you to go sleep. I'm also going to hire a couple more people because we have COVID. I'm going to go work it out. And so it was a moment that I could have fired him, and maybe some people would have in younger, but it was an incredible employee who he came back the next day, and boom, he just flew all the way for the next, I think it was 2 weeks. He just worked same hard, and all he needed was a moment of compassion and a moment of grace. And I think that's important that as we grow with our employees, because I don't want anyone to have a company where it's just you, that you could be a good coach or you can be a bad coach. We've all had good bosses and bad bosses. What made great bosses? Great bosses were bosses that inspired. Bad bosses are the one that were so critical and they're mad and they're angry, right? Those are not good bosses. They're not good coaches. They don't inspire. They rule through fear. We have to be people that we rule through love, that we are inspiring employees. I come in tomorrow morning, I'll go into the shop, I go around, and I will make sure that I spend time talking to each of them. Just, how are you doing? Right? They're talking about their life and their day, and it's not about work. Nothing about work. I just want to get into their world and just have some time to talk with them. And it kind of brings the whole place up, sit around, and you have to learn to word things when they're not navigating correctly. Right? To be able to navigate, everybody's different. We have one guy in the shop, he's never on time. I swear to you, he's never on time. Ever. Never been. I don't think he even knows the time of the workshop. But he doesn't have to be on time. Right? He doesn't have to be. And so when he comes in, I'm like, oh my gosh. Only 10 minutes late to like, we have fun, and he laughs, and I laugh, and I'm like, oh, what are you doing, right? But he's the best at what he does. I've never had anybody so good, and I can't tell you the position in case he watches it. He's like, hey, he's talking about me. Yeah, I am talking about you. You're always late. You know who you are. And so I could be a stiff, I could get mad and get upset with him, and boom. But with his personality and who he is and how good he is at his job, I think it's a better route. It's just like 5 kids. I have 5 kids. Every kid is different, and how I can inspire and shape and turn kids seems to be there's different methods. And learning the methods, because I don't ever want to suck the air, in a sense, out of an employee. I want to be an owner who is always inspiring my employees. I always want to encourage, when you leave time with Scotty, I want you to feel better about yourself and better about the company. And if that's not you, then you need to read some books and get some more material. Whatever you are weak in, I want you to get strong. Whatever is not working, get better. If your employees could get mad and upset, there's 2 options. Now, there was a time with Ravencrest, I'm like, maybe I'm just the worst manager ever to know to man. I don't know. Everybody quits after a month. Come to find out, I just had bad employees. So, right? It's just horrible because I was doing nothing different. You put good employees in my world with good attitudes, right, and good people, I like to navigate that. And so I want to make sure that you're doing that as you grow. Like I said, I like to be a good coach. All right. Let's skip ahead. I was going to do BBs, that's in the book, making sure that you don't do big moves if you don't have to, right? We're doing the racquetball company. I could order 500 rackets, and in your mind, yeah, we're going to sell them all, and it would be considerably cheaper per racket. But I'm going to order 100 rackets. Why is that? Because I don't want to do the great bath bomb thing that I did before when I ordered 10,000 bath bombs. And when I could have, right, because I was able to get them for, I forgot what we got them for, like 70 cents a piece. Or I could have made them in my house for $4 a piece, but I could make them one at a time. But I don't want to spend $4 a piece when I can make them for 70 cents. And so we ordered 10,000 bath bombs. Super cool idea. Put them in my garage. Now my garage smells like a whorehouse. And so, I'm sorry I had to say that. I can say that now, right? Can I say that? Is that right? That's exactly what it says. It just smelled like you drive up, you could be a block away, and you're like, oh my God, what is going on? Like, it was so potent all throughout the house and the dust. It was so aggressive. And then the fun thing is, I told you all, I think in week 1, is the Arizona heat. I guess when it's 140 degrees in your garage, bath bombs do a super cool chemical thing. They turn from a beautiful blue and yellow to a puke green. I didn't know that would even happen. And because I tried to save $1, it cost me hundreds of dollars. Actually, that was thousands of dollars. And I think we do that in business. We try to save $1, but it ends up costing us $100. And so making sure that in the beginning I throw a BB at something. I should have just said, hey, let's make bath bombs at $4 a piece and see if they sell. If they sell, great. Then we can start talking about, and maybe then find a way, let's order 500 bath bombs. That's a good idea, right? That's a great idea looking back, instead of ordering 10,000 stupid bath bombs. Dang it. All right, integrity. I want to close with these last 2 things. Integrity, making sure that we operate our business with integrity, that I believe in getting an accountant as soon as you start making pretty good money. One of the things that I have learned from my great accountant that I have is that you take a paycheck and not do a 1099. IRS don't like 1099s. Most people that start a business, and that's kind of the. It's funny, people that don't have a big business always have great advice for a business. It's not great advice. They also have all the things that are write-off. They're not write-offs, just so you know that. Everything that people have told you is not all write-offs. And I've had that since I have a great accountant. Like, we come to the end of the year, and he has all this stuff on there. I'm like, well, that's a write-off. He goes, that's not a write-off. I go, why would it? It's my cell phone bill. He goes, yeah, you got 9 kids on there. How would that be a write-off for the IRS? They're not working for you. I'm like, we could say they are. And he would say, and I'm joking with him, but he said this, and it really helped change my mind. He goes, Scott, because I kept having things that are write-off. So, flying out for my vacation to Cape Cod. But I'm like, when I'm out there, I really do. I go to fire departments and I go to police stations out there. I'm out there, and that should be a write-off. He goes, yeah, you can write it off. I go, I can? He goes, you can write off anything you want. Write off it all. He goes, but the IRS is going to write it off if they audit you. I go, so I can write it off? He goes, sure. If you want to put it on your write-off, write it off. He goes, but the IRS audits you, it's going to be a big trouble for you. Write off anything you want. It doesn't mean that it's able to be written off. I said, okay, I didn't know that. I thought if I did a little bit big. He goes, no. No, you can't. It has to be all business if you're going to write off a trip. That's what it has to be. A cell phone, if it wants to be your cell phone, you can write that off. You can't write off all your kids' cell phones because they don't work for the company. Well, that makes sense. And so making sure that you operate with a sense of integrity, like I said, having a good accountant that does things. This is one of the things that I want to help you on. My math mind, it's called double tax. And I don't know if anyone knows this, or I'm sure they do. But I think 90% of the businesses don't realize this. So you have your business, you have income going into your LLC, right? Let's say, for instance, you end the year last year and you had, let's say, $5,000 in the bank, right? And then the next year, you go through the whole year and you have $10,000 at the bank that started January 1. And you took your little paychecks. You will pay taxes on that. Your business will be, it'll come on your whatever that is. Betsy, what is it, K-12? K something? K1, your K1, there you go. It'll come on your K1, and you'll be charged tax for that $5,000. Here's what's interesting. You have $10,000 in the bank. Let's say January 7th, you take a $2,500 paycheck. You're going to pay taxes on the $2,500 paycheck, but I already been taxed on that $2,500 because you thought it was profit, but it wasn't profit because I didn't make it. It didn't come into my account. The business had extra money in the account. I didn't make money. The business had money, but I ended up taking it next year anyway. And so even if I drained the account down back to that $5,000, I got taxed double on that money. And so this is what, and I don't like to be taxed twice. I'm just that guy. So I have a set amount, Ravencrest Tactical. At the end of the year, we're going to be within $1,000, $1,500. We have so many things going on of this amount. We close the year out every year with this amount. So my business looks like it made, $300 or lost $300, so that my tax on that money's not. And we make sure that what I do is I order tons of product, right, for the next year. Everything I do, and you'll see smart business do this. At the end of the year, what are they doing? Spending that money. Okay, spend that money. Spend that money. So you need to find a number, because I don't want people to get double taxed. Like I said, and it could be big, because let's say you ended last year with $5,000 in the bank, and this year you're like, woo, right? You got $40,000 in the bank, right? You haven't taken a dime of it. None of it's coming in your pocket, but on your K-1, it'll show $35,000 increase that you have to pay taxes on. And you're like, and then you start to take paychecks on it, and then you get taxed again. And so, if anything, tonight was worth that alone, because that's going to save you a tremendous amount of tax money. Because if you can write something off, and it is legal, do it. It makes sense to do that. Even taking meals out with people, it's only half, but it's still half the tax. If I am buying an iPad, right, I'm using it for Ravencrest Tactical, which I do. I use my iPad for here, and I also use it for Ravencrest Tactical for everything I do. That's a great write-off, because if you think about it, my iPad, he's expensive. Let's say, I don't know what he was like. Let's say he was $1,000. If I had taken a $1,000 paycheck, that would have equated to just about $700, about 30% tax. So I put $300 in my pocket by simply going through the business to buy those things. It's all math. So if I can write something off, I always will. Make sure that God is always a part of your business. Make sure everything I do. So in my knives, every knife will come with a card that has John 3:16 on it. Our pickleball rackets on the side, it has John 3:16 on it. Whatever scripture, whatever you want to do. I'm not saying you have to, but I believe that there's something powerful that when we inject God into our business and we're unrelenting in it, the world has no trouble putting their values on their stuff. We have to be a church, and we have to be a people, and we have to be a body of Christ who have no problem putting our values on our stuff. When you see businesses like Hobby Lobby and you see Chick-fil-A who don't mind standing up and saying, this is what we're Christians and this is what we believe. We're closed on Sundays. Do you know Chick-fil-A does more business being open 6 days than I believe they would do being open 7 days? I'm not saying that you have to be closed on Sunday. Ravencrest Tactical, it's funny. We've been open on Sunday. I'm the pastor. I'm like, how am I a pastor? I have my people. I'm like, well, they can go Saturday night service. I justify it in my mind. But then I just go back to the part. I go, let's just be closed on Sunday. I don't know if they go to church or not. I try to get them to go to church, but let's just be closed on Sunday. And we find that there is no economical value for us or for Chick-fil-A to be open on Sundays. How many people ever wanted Chick-fil-A on Sunday? Every Sunday I want it. Every Sunday, the kids are like, hey, we should get Chick-fil-A. We're like, yeah. They're like, no, let it be open on Sunday, please. But it's good business practice. I hope y'all that want to take the next level in the round table, if you signed up for that, we'll take things to the next level. And I did talk a little longer than I thought I would tonight. It's just fun. I really enjoyed doing this with you all. And I'm always the guy that's open. I'm never going to be the pastor who's untouchable. So you all can always message me through Facebook. I answer my Facebook messages if you have questions. You can grab me after church on a Sunday. That's usually the best time. I try to make time to touch and to change and to be a part of people's worlds. And so I think that's important. And even if you're watching out there, you can find me on Facebook and message me questions. And if it gets crazy, then we'll figure it out from there. But I always want to be that guy that's helping, because ultimately I'm not getting paid any extra money to do this. Not at all. I'm doing this simply to hopefully raise up some millionaires for the body of Christ, because I want us to be blessed, so to be a blessing. I want some people put together in here tonight, maybe watching, who pay off Living Word Bible Church. Can I get an amen anywhere out there? Come on, that's the goal. So I want us to continue to sow in your life, because I know that there's so many aspects of business. that'll continue to come up as you grow. And I know for those of you that haven't got a business or starting a business, some of the stuff tonight was kind of, coming up down the lines, but I'm hoping that it sticks. You got good notes, that when you get to the point of hiring and those things, that from my mistakes, you're able to grow. And so are there any questions? We got a little bit of time. If we got, throw some questions out there. And
Hi, Pastor Scott. The last part you talked about, we're not being double taxed.
yeah.
So how and when would you take your pay when you're spending the money at the end of the year?
So that's at the end of the year. So I always take a very good bonus the last week of Christmas or whatever of the year. I'm sorry, of the year. So the last week, I have to work some extra time. My business is very busy November and December, and so I calculate everything. And so we send all right. This is how much money we got in the bank. This is how much money we want to be down to. All right, so we charge everything on the. One of the things that I didn't even talk about. There's so many benefits. So we have a business credit card. Charge everything on your business on that's business aligned. Everything goes on that business card, and it's super cool. At the end of the year, I think this year I got 4,000 Amazon bucks. That's kind of cool. That's just free. That's just free money that I just get. There you go. Merry Christmas, kids. And so I'll go. All right, let's pay off. Make sure we pay off our credit card all the way to zero. Make sure we pay off all of our affiliates. Make sure that all right. So let's do a big order. And so we'll do a big order. And then I'm like, all right. So here's what we got left over. And so then we both take a big bonus at the end of the year, and we pull it all the way back down by January 1. It's going to be within $1,000 now. I used to be able to get it within a few $100s. Now it's going to be within about $1,000 of last year's. Once again, I'm not going to get double taxed. I refuse it. All right, next question. Is it done? Do I have one? Sorry, I can't see. I can't see in these lights. I got nothing.
Well, I'm going to ask your permission.
Get it. Done.
It's not a question as much as a testimony.
Yeah.
To prove what you said is real. The fact that there's more than just tithing and giving. There's two other forms. But in tithing, when God tells us that he will rebuke the devourer, my wife and I, 2 years ago, lent our car to our daughter to take our grandkids to school, and the car stopped pulling into the school parking lot. Would not start. And I'm making this real brief that I went down, I have a coder on it, and I read the code, and it was a stupid code that it said, but the car would not start. It's a Hyundai. And my wife and I put our hands on the hood, prayed over it, called AAA, said, look, just take it to the dealer. Took it to the dealer. The dealer said, well, we inspected it, and our code said, your engine's blown. Wow, what's that going to be? $6,000.
I was going to say 8,000, yeah.
But he said, I'm going to write a quick email letter to Hyundai because of the codes we saw. He called us back, said, they're giving us an engine. We might get it in about 6 weeks. He got it in 4, put the engine in, called me up, said it's in, it's running good, come out and get it. He handed me the key when I got there, and he said, here, drive it away.
You see?
Free.
So come on, somebody.
So that's one testimony.
I think tithing, of course,
Yep.
yes.
And then briefly the second, what you said about being nice and being... Today, I was with a customer. I'm in the restaurant equipment business. And a general manager's livid because for almost 2 months, her ice machine in the lobby area is down. The company that worked on it before, and it's true, that this water pump is out of stock from the manufacturer who can't even build new machines because they don't have this water pump. But the motor is what's bad on this. I did a little research, and I'm getting the motor probably this week. And she was just, ugh. And I just kept saying, yeah, I know, isn't it sad? And I was empathizing enough, but I'm going to get the motor and make her happy, and I'm just going to do the work like you advised us. Just do the work, make them happy, and then see what benefit comes from it.
Come on, she'll market you. Amen, amen. All right, do we have one more?
One more question.
Oh, one more. And if you have more questions, you can ask me afterwards also, or you can ask me at the round table if you're there.
To continue with your part about leadership, that's a challenge I've been faced with, not with only like leadership opportunities myself, but also in my current job, trying to have a good attitude. And so the two things I'd like to, one is a question and one is a request. The first is if you can recommend resources or things you can do to get better at your leadership skills and to encouraging people, like influencing people. And if you did offer a course like this, but specifically for leadership and attitude and salesmanship skills, I think that would be great.
It's good. And maybe I think we'll do that. I think that you gave me ideas. And that's one of the things of the roundtable. Roundtable is going to be something that evolves. I don't know what it looks like yet. I will put my mind on it. It'll be once a month. So I got 4 weeks where I'll be using the time that I told you. And I think that'll be good. I think I will do some, I'd like to do a lot of leadership, because we have to be able to lead our companies. I'm a big John Maxwell guy, always have been. I think that his some of the Zig Ziglar, John Maxwell, any of those things are really good. If you finish all that and you're not a great leader, then then don't lead. You're done. But I think everybody has the attitude, and I think that comes with practice. I think. Learning to be a person of good attitude. Your employees will follow. So if problems come up and the captain is all stressed out and all anxious and all mad, and, then what are your employees are going to follow you. We have to be the calm in the storm. We got to be the captain that's just like, hey, we'll figure this out. And maybe go in the office, close the door, and just put your head into something, and then come out with a smile. And I have to be that guy. I have to be that guy in the holidays. I've seen and I've been around bad bosses in stressful situations, and it's not good. No one grows, becomes better in a situation where you're yelling, you're mad, and it lacks any grace or anything like that. I can be upset, but I can still find a way to word things in a way, hopefully, that it's, and if I don't, and people know, if I do make a mistake, because we do, and this is a great thing from parenting, I don't always parent right. But what makes me a great parent is when I make a mistake, I'm very fast to going, please forgive me. That's not right. And that's the same thing as a boss. I know that I've had to do that time where I just go, hey, yeah, I didn't handle that right. I'm so sorry. That's not my character. That's not who I am. I really do ask for your forgiveness. And you'd be surprised what a quick apology will do when you make a mistake. And that's just life. I mean, you've been married 29 years. Welcome to welcome to that. That's just marriage 101. So I think that in the roundtable, I definitely, I think maybe I might even, like I said, I'm putting it together in my head. And you know how I do things. So, I've been working on the things that are in front of me. Now I got a month to probably put the roundtable ahead. It'd be neat if I did like 10 minutes of leadership and then did some business stuff. And maybe we as a group put a business, start brainstorming some sort of business that we can put together, do so. I don't know. Like I said, this is something that's going to evolve, and it'll come into something kind of cool. And I don't know if I'm going to let anybody in outside of who signs up tonight. I don't know if I will. I kind of like the people that stood all the way through 5 weeks. I kind of like that. And like I said, I like to keep it, I want to keep it small, because if we have, 100 people in it, I don't feel like you'll get as much attention from me as if we keep it nice and kind of intimate in a sense. And this will be the disciples. Like Jesus, he didn't have 100, he had 12. He's like, I can manage 12. And that'd be a great number for this. 12 would be a great round table number. I know you enjoyed today's session on Think Like a Businessaire. And don't forget to pick up the book and sow the book into some people's lives out there. I really encourage you, if you know a single mom out there, my heart is to touch the single moms out there. They're doing a lot. And if there's a way that you can sow into a single moms, I'm going around all over the country and I'm sowing into single moms out there also. So I encourage you to do the same thing. Don't forget to go on Amazon, get the book,